And welcome to episode 4 of the J&C Broadcasters podcast. Sorry guys that it took so long for us to get an episode out. Me and Carter have been really still trying to work out the schedule and we're going to be able to record. And because of that, it is just me today. Carter was busy and unavailable to make it. So you get to hear my lovely voice today. You know, a lot of you just logged off. That's perfectly fine. I understand that completely. Today, it's not going to be as long of a podcast just because it is me. I'm going to touch up on some quick hitters across college basketball in Memphis. I do plan to talk a little bit about some winners and losers of both the MLB trade deadline and the NBA draft. And then I'll discuss maybe a little bit about football and just kind of wrap things up, kind of keep it short and sweet for you guys today. The big news, obviously, today, with it being Friday, is Jalen Duren and Armani Bates have reclassified into 2021, which means they will be playing basketball, making money somewhere in 2 or 3 months whenever it starts back up. The big news, obviously, is that they're both narrowed their list down, and the common consensus, common school or team among both of them is Memphis. And coming from Memphis and being a huge Tigers fan, that is just ecstatic news to hear, especially when it comes to how they can help this program grow and get better. And one of the big things that people have always said was Memphis can be competitive if they can recruit guys within the city of Memphis. And by going out and maybe even getting these two guys, I think it shows that Penny Hardaway is not only able to get guys within the city of Memphis, but to get anybody that he wants. And it really shows, I think, the rest of college basketball that when Penny Hardaway walks through the door, you have to be scared that he's going to get who he wants. And it's important to see because I think 2 or 3 years ago you would not have had this conversation. I don't think this would have been a possibility. But due to the new name, image, and likeness rights that the NCAA has passed, it helps guys make that decision and not try to go the G League route. It kind of helps them stay in college. But I think it's more important for schools such as Memphis. Obviously, Memphis is not a Power 5 school. They won't be a Power 5 school in the foreseeable future. And that, as tough as that is, when it comes to sports, it's hard to recruit guys and say, oh, we're going to be winners here when you're not a Power 5 school. The good news is, thanks to the new NIL, is you can sit there and say, we might not be a Power 5 school, but you can make a lot of money because we're in a big city, such as Memphis. I think the NIL is not only benefiting college athletes as a whole, but I believe it benefits schools that exist in such large cities, such as Memphis, Cincinnati, Houston, and schools of that sort. Because when you're in such a large city, there's so many different businesses and so many different opportunities for these athletes to reach an agreement with somebody and start making money to help provide not only for them, but for their families. And I think one of the biggest, I would argue that Memphis is the biggest winner because of this, because not only is it such a big city, and yes, we have a professional sports team, but I believe the University of Memphis and its athletics will always take precedent over the Grizzlies. And that's not a knock against the Grizzlies. I love the Grizzlies. I love Ja. I love the organization as a whole. I don't want them to go anywhere. But the argument that I was talking the other day was if the Grizzlies won an NBA championship and the Tigers won March Madness and was an NCAA championship in basketball and there was a parade for both, I would believe that there would be a bigger turnout for the Tigers NCAA parade than the Grizzlies NBA championship. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean the Grizzlies NBA championship was not going to be a huge party. It would be a ridiculous ruckus party. But I think the Tigers would have a bigger turnout, and I think that was evident when College Game Day came for the Memphis-Houston game a few years ago. You saw the turnout, even from early, like 7 o'clock in the morning, how big of a turnout it was. And I believe that if Memphis can get one of these two, whether it's Bates or Duren, it goes from this team should be a top 25 NCAA caliber team to maybe even a Sweet 16 team. And if they're able to get both, you got to be careful, because now you see how dangerous they are. And one of the big knocks against Penny was he's a great recruiter, but he struggles with the X's and O's stuff sometimes because he's still learning. Well, he brought in Larry Brown, and I think that's going to be such a huge win, because you see the experience in Larry Brown and how awesome he is and how much he can help the program with the X's and O's. And it also helps that Penny is such a great recruiter because he can bring in those great players. And it looks like it's official on Twitter as of 2 minutes ago. Jalen Duren, the number 1 overall player in the 2022 class, has reclassified to 2021 and has announced his commitment to the University of Memphis. So that deserves a big round of applause. Congratulations, Jalen. I am so excited for you to join the University of Memphis. Get to play alongside such great players such as Lester Quiones, and sit behind and learn from such a great coach such as Penny. So I'm happy that you're here. You're going to love the city. And such the fan base, when you get inside the FedEx Forum, and hopefully we can be at full capacity, and you get into those tough moments, we as a fan base love to cheer on our players and hopefully carry you on through those tough moments. You're going to absolutely love the city. Congratulations to that. But to dig deeper into what that means for the rest of the Tigers, I think it adds just more athleticism. Obviously you still have Lester Quiones. You have Alo, who will probably be your starting point guard this year. And you've got guys like Earl Timberlake and the Lawson brothers, who are really versatile when it comes to wing players. So to have that ability for the pressure not to be all on someone like Jalen Duren or Amari Bates is humongous for their development. It allows them to kind of develop at their own pace and not have all this attention put onto them. And so I'm super excited that he's going to join the team. Hopefully Amari Bates is not far behind. And it's going to be a fun year. Like I said, Sweet 16 team would be my prediction as of this moment, if not better. So congratulations to him. Way to go, Tigers. Now we move on. We get the next guy. Next man up. Who can we get? How can we continue to get better? That's exciting to see. Moving on to the NBA draft. That was a week ago. Obviously, we had our thoughts about what the Grizzlies drafted the other day. And as fun as that was, I kind of talked myself into the Zaire Williams pick. I do want to talk a little bit about my opinion on some of the winners and losers of that draft from team's perspective. And one of the winners that I think of the draft was the Golden State Warriors. And yes, you have Steph Curry, you have Klay Thompson, you have Draymond Green, and that's going to be your core, and that they could lead you to a playoff if they're healthy. I would expect them to. But for you, I still think they were looking to trade away that 7th pick. And when that wasn't able to become a reality, you had to take someone, and you took Kuminga, which I think was a good pick. And then you went and got Moses Moody, who I thought was going to be drafted a lot higher. He slid all the way down to 14. So that was impressive to see. I think just because you were able to get 2 really good wings, talents that can grow behind Steph Curry, and all of a sudden you have Steph, Klay, and Dre, and maybe in 2 or 3 years, if you keep your core together, keep that young guy together, all of a sudden you have a young core of Kuminga, Moody, and James Wiseman. So that would be really interesting to see. I think they did a great job just because they were able to keep both those picks. And they can really... They're rebuilding behind the scenes is what it almost looks like here. And I think that's why you consider them a winner of this draft. Another winner I have of this draft was the Detroit Pistons. I think Cade Cunningham is a specimen. He's a great talent. And I just think, yes, when you get one, it's easy to pick someone that's a good talent like that. But even then, you never know. I think he shows the versatility to be a scorer and a passer on the offensive side, and then on the defensive side to be able to switch 1 through 3 and guard, even sometimes the 4 depending on the height. And I think that's such a big thing in today's NBA with how many pick and rolls and how many pick and pops you see. And the way these offenses are built, you have to be able to guard more than one position on the defensive side. And I think because of his length and his athleticism, he's able to do that. So I think Detroit, obviously that was a great pick for them because he was such a good player. And I think it was kind of obvious that he was going to go 1. But that still doesn't discount them from having a good draft there. One of the teams that I was not happy with their draft, I don't think the Sacramento Kings had a good draft. It's nothing against Davon Mitchell. I watched him beat up on Arkansas in the Elite Eight, and that hurt. And I think he's a great player. But when you have De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton already as your 3 kind of main backcourt guys, it's difficult to justify picking another backcourt guy when you need help at the 5 position. Obviously, Marvin Bagley has not panned out into the player that you thought you got when you drafted him. And I thought they would go big. And obviously, there wasn't a solid big man that you thought you could pick at 9. But even then, you could have gone forward or even like shooting guard that you can slide to a 3. And live with that and maybe get big man later or even trade back and go big man later. But for you to go guard was very difficult to see, especially when you're such guard heavy and so talented there already. But, I do wish nothing but the best for Davon Mitchell. And, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he ends up producing. I don't think he would get such a big role early on. And I feel like they had more important needs to go to. Another team that I thought kind of struggled in the draft a little bit was the San Antonio Spurs. I don't think you really needed to go guard. You had the guys, and obviously the DeMar DeRozan trade kind of changes that, so maybe it's not as bad of a pick now that you look back on it. But I still think, once again, you needed help on the off. When it came to the big men and on the offensive and defensive boards, and for you to go guard was really difficult to understand. But maybe they did that to kind of cut down on cap because they knew they were going to give away DeMar DeRozan. But once again, free agency is in full swing. There's already been a bunch of acquisitions and even some more trades, and I think that's gonna. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that on Monday. What I think about that, but hindsight's 20/20. You never know. Maybe these guys end up proving me wrong, and I would love for them to do that. I love young players producing. It's one of my favorite things to see when it comes to the world of sports because a lot of times when you're a first rounder, you have such high expectations, and it's so difficult to gauge that. So to be able to not only meet those expectations, but maybe outperform them, it's awesome to see because it shows not only the mental strength, but the mental fortitude to not crack under pressure. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for these young guys. I do wish them nothing but the best. The other thing that happened on Friday was the MLB trade deadline, and that was so fun to see. And I remember waking up Friday and texting my buddies and kind of telling them, as a Cardinals fan, the Cubs are going to give them away. You got to think they're going to give them away, and if they do, this is where they're going to go. And I hate to toot my own horn, but I predicted every single one of them. I predicted Baez to the Mets and Bryant to the Giants and Kimbrel to go to the White Sox, and I was right. But some of the winners I thought were I really liked the Giants. I think, you were kind of solid as is. You didn't need to sell the farm system to get better, but you needed to get better somewhere. And I thought Chris Bryant was a great option for you. And it helps you stay competitive, especially with the Fernando Tatis injury. It kind of really becomes a two-horse race between you and the Dodgers. And the Dodgers are always going to be making moves. One team that I did not like, I didn't like the way the Reds handled things. I thought they were in an opportune position to get better, especially with the Cubs selling. I thought now was a great time for them to make one or two moves and get a lot better, especially on the rotation and the bullpen side of things. Because right now you're still sitting somewhere between 6 to 8 games, depending on what day you look, behind the Brewers, and you're chasing them. I feel like you had to make a move to really push to try to catch them, and you didn't make that move that said, yeah, we're definitely coming after the Brewers. And so I would categorize the Reds as a loser of this. On the flip side of it, I think the Brewers won the trade deadline, and it's not because they made a whole bunch of major moves, but because the teams behind them, when it came to the Cardinals and the Reds, didn't make moves to prove to the Brewers that, yeah, we're coming hard for the division. And so the Brewers kind of won just by making minor moves and sitting back and letting the rest of the division figure itself out. And I think that's due to the Cardinals' thought process of, well, we'll get Flaherty back and we'll get Michaelis back eventually. And the Reds, I don't know. I don't know what the Reds were thinking. I thought the Reds were going to be big buyers at the trade deadline to try to catch the Brewers and maybe even surpass them or try to make a play for the wild card, and they just didn't. But the trade deadline was interesting to see. I do like the way some teams were aggressive, whether it was buying or selling. I think the Cubs made the right decision to sell everybody. Rebuild, I didn't think they were going to be able to catch the Brewers. At this point, I don't think anybody's going to be able to catch them. And with how many free agents you have coming up, I thought it was a smart move to just try to, rebuild that farm system and come back to it in a year or two. Not try to aim for low A players, but maybe aim for some double A, some triple A players that could help you contribute in 2 or 3 years. That's what I thought they should do, and they did. And I applaud them for it. That was a smart move on their part. I know it hurts some of the fans to see that because, you're 5 years removed from a World Series. It's not like Chris Bryant was 34 years old or, Rizzo was 36. These were still, kind of in their prime or towards the bottom part of their primes, but they were still, it was still the core players when it came to Contreras and Baez, Rizzo, and Bryant. And so I know it hurt Cubs fans to see it, but I think it was the right move for them to do, to try to sell, to restock so that, because you're not going to catch the Brewers this year, maybe in a few years when those AAA and those AA players are MLB ready, you can make a push. And who knows? Maybe you get some of those free agents like Javier Baez back and free, during the winter. But, that's, once again, that's your opinion on what you're willing to offer them and what you're willing to go get. But no, I'm excited. The last month of baseball, in my opinion, is always one of the funnest to see because that's when you see expanded rosters up to the 40-man rosters, and you see a lot of young guys who might not make their mark during the first 120 games of the season actually start to play, so that some of their MLB roster guys can get a break. And you never know, they might be able to perform very well. One guy that I'm really interested to see within the Cardinals organization get called up is Nolan Gorman. We've talked about him for a while, and he was supposed to be the next third baseman until you went and traded for Arenado. So that would be one of those examples where he comes in and maybe he plays some second base and gives Tommy Edman a day off and all that. He performs he might perform very well, and you think, oh, maybe he's ready next year. And those are the kind of things, once again, when it comes back to young guys getting their opportunity and capitalizing on it, you've got to love to see it because it allows these teams to be flexible and saying, we want to give you your fair opportunity, and we think that you've proven it over, when we have 40-man rosters or over spring training. And it shows them that 19 years old 30 years ago was not the same 19-year-old you have now. Big example of that is someone such as Dylan Carlson with the Cardinals. He shows such professionalism, and even guys like in the NBA such as Ja Morant and Zion, you see such a professionalism and such a mature attitude from them that you might not have been able to see 30, 40 years ago, in the 1980s and the 1990s when rookies came in. They were still these 18, 19-year-old rookies that all of a sudden I got this huge paycheck, I'm going to go spend it all at one time. No. You see these 18 and 19-year-old rookies not only be professional when it comes to talking to the media, but professional with their money, because they understand that this is a great life to live, but it could be over with a snap and be done. And so they're, I think it really is awesome to see young players perform, because it shows not only fans but organizations how mature these young guys are starting to become early on in their careers, because they understand that they have a finite time playing the game that they love, and that they don't want to waste it, and they want to try to make the most of their opportunities. And that's one of the most exciting things to see, because you see them not playing to get paid. They're playing because they want to play. Like, they want money, yes, but they have to prove that they deserve that money first. And to do that, they come in with a passion, this hungry fire that I'm gonna need to get this paycheck, and to do that I have to beat you. And it's always so fun to see young players get their opportunity. And so it's great for teams such as the Cubs to sell at this moment, because you get these young players that get their opportunity, and they're not hindered by these star players that you might lose in a year. You get that development early on, and it's really fun to see. Hey guys, it's me. Sorry about that, my microphone cut out. I just did want to talk about just a little bit about how I'm still working on the podcast schedule with Carter. Hopefully he will be back Monday. If not, you guys will get to stick with me again. Thank you guys for being so patient. We greatly appreciate it. As always, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to hit us up on the JNC Broadcasters Podcast on Instagram. Give us suggestions. What should we talk about? What can we do to get better and to make your listening experience more enjoyable? Other than that, we do hope you guys enjoy your weekend, and we will be back with you guys on Monday. Have a great one, guys.